Big changes over at the Washington Post, specifically over who will be overseeing stories about their new embattled CEO, Will Lewis. As a quick refresher, Will Lewis is a former UK journalist turned, according to The Guardian, a cleanup campaigner for News Corp, which is owned by the Murdoch family. In recent years, he has been accused in high court of allegedly overseeing the deletions of millions of emails that would have implicated top brass. This all stems from the 2011 phone hacking scandal, which saw Murdoch closing the News of the World and maintaining that the Sun was totally fine. The official reason that Lewis was brought in was to reform the newsroom, root out the bad. Sure. More recently, these allegations have come to light because Prince Harry has made them in documents related to his legal case against News Corp, which NPR's David Folkenflik has been reporting on since at least December of 2023 when he came out with this story, new Washington Post CEO accused of Murdoch tabloid hacking cover-up. And then came this early June 2024 update where David said that he was approached in exchange for an exclusive interview to kill the story that he was writing back in 2023. As I said before, not only was this ethically the right thing to do, but also there is clearly a more interesting story here. The piece also discusses times where Will Lewis tried to kill stories at the Washington Post about the controversies surrounding Lewis. This is an alarming trend for the paper that broke Watergate. There was the news over the weekend that in the 5 short months that Lewis has been with the Washington Post, he has already brought in 5 close former colleagues. The most recent is Rob Winnett, who worked with Lewis at 2 papers in the UK. He is to start as the new top editor over the Post's core newsroom after the November elections. Robert is the deputy editor of the Telegraph Media Group. Yes, the royal appointment, where my Roman Empire article was published. Here are some of the episodes. Quote, a 6-figure payment for a major scoop, planting a junior reporter in a government job to secure secret documents, and relying on a private investigator who used subterfuge to secure private documents from their computers and phones. There's a quote in here from Emily Bell, who is a former media reporter and director of digital content for The Guardian. She said, quote, UK journalism often operates at a faster pace and it plays more fast and loose around the edges. This is a great Reader's Digest article from September of 2023 that quotes Roger House, who is an associate professor in American Studies at Emerson College. He echoes the fact that there is a different sort of aggression. Quote, the British tabloids are more aggressive because they operate in a small and cutthroat media environment. A large part of the concerns is, will Lewis try to bring these unethical ways of obtaining stories to an American paper like the Washington Post? Because listen, approving a £110,000 payment to acquire a stolen government database is not ethical or allowed under the code of conduct for papers like the Washington Post and the New York Times. This article update also gives a clearer picture of why the Washington Post would have brought Lewis on. The Post lost $77 million last year. One of the reasons to bring Lewis on is that he helped put Murdoch's Wall Street Journal back on track with strong digital subscriptions. He ends with another quote from The Guardian journalist saying, in Britain, there are much more incestuous relationships with much greater alignment of power rather than a genuine interest in actually holding power to account. Exactly. She ends with, I think if you bring that to the Washington Post, you are going to see a lot of damage. Clear that the Washington Post is feeling that pressure because as we found out this morning from David Folkenflik over on his Twitter, the former Washington Post senior managing editor Cameron Barr is overseeing the paper's coverage of the controversies besetting publisher Will Lewis and his pick as its next editor. That is an encouraging sign because it lets you know that the pressure from other reporters or even subscribers of the Washington Post are having an impact. But it always makes me sad when the takeaway from a story that I do is that people should rush and cancel their subscriptions to pretty good papers. And the thing is, doing that just hurts the people at the bottom, the people doing the work. Well, I definitely think that you should speak up when you see something wrong happening at a paper. And one of those ways can be canceling your subscription and giving the reason as X, Y, and Z. This is why I encourage people when they ask me, what paper should I follow? Like, who should I read? What's trustworthy? My advice is to not look at the paper as much as the journalist. Find reporters that you like and trust and have liked their work in the past. Like David Folkenflik, who has stayed on the pulse of this story and seen it through. I'm sure this is not the last we will hear. There is always more to come.